Hi, Doctor. The topic of our team speech today is English language variation in South Africa and Caribbean. And my name is HANGYU, and this is my partner, Yuexing. Here is our metric number. In our speech, we divided into 5 parts to introduce. Let's look at the first part, introduction. Here is a map of South Africa. The speed rate of English in South Africa runs through 4 main stages. The first one after the British occupation of the Cape Colony in 1795, the first group of about 4,000 British immigrants settled in the eastern border region of the Cape. About 4,000 British immigrants settled in Natal between 1849 and 1851. After 1870, due to the discovery of gold and diamonds, the Industrial Revolution and the further influx of British immigrants, the urbanization of South Africa accelerated, and English became the official languages. After the formation of the Union of South Africa in 1910, English became an official language along with Dutch.
Now let me introduce Caribbean region. Development of Caribbean Englishes. Channel 2 slavery played a larger role in the spread in this region than Channel 1 settled migration. Most importantly, in the present linguistic perspective, different settlement patterns have resulted in North American varieties of English being characteristic by dialect transmission, as against Caribbean forms of English being shaped by process of creolization. Here are 5 ways Caribbean English can spread, followed by colonial history, African influence, indentured labors, Creole languages, and migration. I've underlined the important parts as you can see.
Let's talk about second part, South Africa English. First one, we look at linguistic features. The pronunciation of South Africa English is influenced by Afrikaans, Zulu, and other African languages. So some pronunciation differ from standard English. For example, the B and the pronunciations in South Africa English are generally heavier than in standard English, while the T and K pronunciations are lighter. South African English has a more open vowel sound. For example, cat is pronounced like hat. South African English has softer consonants. For example, the T is pronounced like D. Let's look at grammatical features. In South African English, it is usually rare to encounter the inflections of verb endings, and South Africans will use primitive forms or regular changes to indict. In South African English, people sometimes avoid using relatively complex tense, especially when expressing the past perfect or past context. The grammar of South African English has also been influenced by other languages. Here are some examples of South Africa. The first one, General South Africa English, busy as a marker of progressive and busy cooking. And second one, Africa English, I can be able to do it. Let's talk about the role of English in South Africa. English is very important in South Africa because it's one of official language in South Africa, and the government and business always use that. English is widely spoken in South Africa, especially in urban areas and business. In addition, English is one of the main languages of instruction in South Africa education system, and many South African students learn English from primary school. As a result, many South Africans say English as an important language to help them succeed in business, government, and education.
Part 3, Caribbean English. Let's move on to the role of English in the Caribbean. English plays a pivotal role in the Caribbean region, serving as a unifying language with historical roots deeply embedded in colonization. As a result of British, Dutch, French, and Spanish colonization, English became the dominant language in most Caribbean countries, alongside other European languages in specific regions. Today, English functions as the official language in many Caribbean nations, used in government, education, media, and business. Despite its colonial origins, Caribbean English has evolved into a distinct variety with its own grammar, vocabulary, and pronunciation influenced by African, indigenous, and other languages. However, the dominance of English has also led to concerns about the preservation of local languages and cultures. Efforts to promote Caribbean English alongside preserving indigenous language and dialects are essential for maintaining cultural diversity and identity in the region. Secondly, phonemic variation. Phonemic variation in Caribbean English is a fascinating aspect of the language, influenced by the region's diverse history and cultural heritage. One notable feature is the tendency to simplify consonant clusters. The other is the use of non-rhotic accent, where the R sound is not pronounced at the end of the words or before consonants, similar to British English. For example, car is pronounced more like car. However, there are variations within the Caribbean, with some regions maintaining the rhotic R sound. Vowel sounds also exhibit variation. For example, the vowel in tramp may be pronounced with a more open quality, closer to the A in father, known as the tramp bass lipped. Furthermore, intonation patterns in Caribbean English can differ from other varieties, with distinctive rise and falls that contribute to its muscle and rhythmic quality. These phonemic variations not only reflect the region's linguistic history but also contribute to the unique identity of Caribbean English. Grammar syntactic variation. The grammar and syntax of Caribbean English exhibit notable variations influenced by the region's history, culture, and contact with other languages. These variations can be seen in several aspects of the language, followed by verb forms, pronoun usage, double negation, prepositions, word order, reduplication, and lexical differences. Attitudes. The case of Jamaica. Jamaica is a particularly interesting case in the study of Caribbean English due to the distinctiveness of its language, often referred to as Jamaican Patois or Jamaican Creole. In the Jamaican Patois, there are different grammatical and syntactic differences compared to standard English. These include verb forms, pronouns, word order, negation, and tense markers.
Let's look at the four-part comparison. Although Caribbean English and South African English belong to a kind of English in a broad sense, they each have their own unique linguistic characters and backgrounds. The uniqueness of South African English stems from its unique phonological, lexical, grammatical features, and deep social-cultural background. Phonetically, South African English has open pronunciation, loose mouth shape, easy consonant pronunciation, and various intonation, even with the intonation characteristics of the local language. In terms of vocabulary, South African English has been influenced by many languages and has formed its unique lexical characteristics. These characteristics not only reflect the interaction of South Africa's diverse cultures, but also reflects the complexity of South Africa's social structure and history changes.
Comparison. Caribbean English developed primarily through colonization by European powers, especially the British, and the African diaspora through the transatlantic slave trade. In contrast, South African English developed through colonization by the Dutch and later the British, as well as the contact with indigenous African languages. Both varieties of English exhibit unique grammatical features and cultural influences. These differences result in variations in pronunciation, vocabulary, grammar, and cultural references, making each variety of English a rich and distinct linguistic entity.
Let's turn to the last part, conclusion. In general, Caribbean English and South Africa English are varieties of English in different regions and cultural backgrounds, and their unique linguistic characteristics and cultural connotations enrich the language system and cultural diversity of English. These differences are not only help us to have a deeper understanding of languages and cultures of different regions, but also promote the communication and integration between different cultures. That's all our group presentation. Thank you for listening.